Hey everyone, this is Rohn Strong with Rohn Strong Designs, and today we're going to be crocheting this. This is my newest design. It's called the Billow hat. It's a whole lot of fun to make. It's surprisingly easy. We got a whole lot of texture going on here, and I'm so excited to share this with you. Now, the original pattern calls for one skein of Big Twist Heather, which is a 100% acrylic yarn that's only available at Joann's. The collar that I used here was called beige. You'll also need a US size H 5mm crochet hook and a tapestry needle. Now in today's video, I'm actually going to be using Premier Yarn's Everyday Anti-Pilling yarn. This is very comparable to the Big Twist Heather. It's a little bit easier to see. As you can kind of see here, that Heather kind of makes it difficult to see the stitches up close and on camera. So I thought, let's just use a similar yarn in a similar color and we'll go from there. All right, so let's get stitching. First up, we need to make a magic loop. The way I do that is similar to how I make a slip knot. I'm going to place the slip knot on my hook, but I'm not going to tighten it. Instead, I'm just going to kind of let it dangle there. Then I'm going to chain 3. Into this loop here, I'm going to work 10 double crochet. Then I'm going to pull on the strand, kind of my end here, just to tighten that loop up. And I'm going to insert my hook, not into the top of the chain 3 because that's not counting as a stitch. But I'm going to insert it into the first double crochet and pull it nice and tight. So the reason I don't count that first chain 3 as my very first double crochet is because in the process of tightening that magic ring, that chain 3 can sometimes really get a little willy wonky. And so instead of that, I like to just do the number of double crochets I need. All right, so next we're going to move on to round 2. For that we need to chain 1, and we're simply going to work 2 single crochets into each double crochet around. In each of the double crochets, we're going to join to our very first single crochet with a slip stitch. Next, for round 3, we're going to chain 3 and double crochet into that same stitch. Next, we're going to work a front post treble crochet around the post of the next double crochet 1 row below. So for a front post treble crochet, we're going to yarn over our hook twice. We're going to drop down and find our very first double crochet, and from right to left we're going to go behind that double crochet. We're going to yarn over and grab our and pull through, so we have 4 loops on our hook. We yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's very similar to a front post double crochet, but it's just a treble. We're going to skip the single crochet behind the front post treble crochet we just made, and into the next single crochet we'll work 2 double crochets. So remember, I just got done saying we're going to work all of our increases mostly on single crochet rounds. Here we're working one on this round that has the double and the front post. Yarn over your hook twice again, drop down into the next double crochet right after where we worked that last front post treble. From right to left, go behind that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip the next stitch, into the stitch after that, work 2 double. And just go ahead and repeat this all the way around. Essentially, we want a front post treble around each of the double crochets from the very first round that we worked, and we want 2 double crochets in every other single crochet. When you get to the end of your round, you should have your 10 front post trebles, and you should have 10 sets of 2 double crochets in between each of those. You're going to join your last front post treble to your first chain 3, which does count as a stitch, and you'll have this cute little motif. So for round 4, we're going to chain 1 into that very first stitch, which is going to be the top of the chain 3 from the last round. We're going to work 2 single crochets. Then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So 2 single crochets and then single crochet in the next 2. 2 single crochet, single crochet in the next 2. So at the end of this round, go ahead and join in the very first single crochet with a slip stitch in chain 3. So for round 5, we have our chain 3. We're going to front post treble crochet around the post of the next double crochet 1 row below. So we're not going to front post treble around the front post treble, but we're going to go around the chain 3 that's right next to that. So if you look down, you'll be able to see there's a chain 3 right there. We want to work a front post treble around that chain 3. We're going to skip the single crochet behind it, and then we're going to double crochet in the next single crochet. All right. Then we're going to work another front post treble, and this time we're going to go into the very next double crochet. We're going to skip the double crochet or the single crochet behind the front post treble we just made, double crochet into the next stitch, front post treble around the next double crochet, skip the stitch behind, work another front post treble around the next double crochet, skip the stitch behind, and double crochet. So you'll notice that after every single front post treble, I keep looking to the back. I really need to make sure that I'm skipping stitches all the way across, because if I'm not skipping stitches, unfortunately, it'll mess up your stitch count, and it can be really tricky to see on the front. It's always easier to see on the back. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish this round, and when we come back, we'll be all set up to work round 6. So at the beginning of round 7, I've done my chain 3. Next, I need a front post treble around the beginning chain 3 here from the previous kind of front post treble and double crochet round. Then I'm going to skip the single crochet behind. I'm going to double crochet into the next single crochet. I'm going to work a front post treble around the post of the next double crochet. Skip the single behind, double crochet into each of the next 2 singles. Front post treble around the next double crochet. Skip the single behind, double crochet, front post around the next double, skip the single behind, and double crochet in each of the next 2 singles. So I'm just going to repeat that around. So what I'm doing on this round is I'm still working my foundation treble crochets, or sorry, my front post treble crochets around each of the double crochets that are worked from one round prior to this one. However, because we increased stitches on the last single crochet round, I need to work extra double crochets into those single crochets, which is why we work a double crochet, a front post treble, then 2 double crochets and a front post treble. So our repeat technically is going to be 1 double crochet, 1 front post treble, 2 double crochet, 1 front post treble. And we repeat that all the way around until we get back to the beginning, and then we join it just like any other round. Now, we don't have a whole lot of increased rounds after this because we're already up to 50 stitches. And technically, when working an adult size hat, traditionally you need about 60 double crochet around with a 5 to 5.5 millimeter hook and some worsted weight yarn in order for it to fit the average adult head. So, but for this round specifically, just keep in mind, we need to work 1 double crochet, a front post treble, 2 double crochets, and then a front post treble. So I'm going to go. When we come back, I'll have this round completely done, and we'll be joined and ready to start round 8. At the end of round 7, you'll end with 1 double crochet into the next single, and that matched with our very first chain 3. will give us our 2 double crochet space after that 1 double crochet we worked. So going all the way around, just a quick review, you should have sets of 2 double crochets, then 1, 2, then 1. And in between each of those sets, you should have a front post treble crochet all the way around. And your work should look something similar to this. Now here's the real thing. If your work is curling in like this, sometimes it's natural to do that when you're working front post stitches because it wants to pull. You can even it out, but your work should lay relatively flat. If it's curling a lot like a bowl, that means that you're working too tightly. You need to loosen up and check your gauge one more time, okay? So for round 8, we're going to chain 1, and into that very first chain 3, we're going to work 2 single crochets. Then we're going to single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Work 2 single crochets and single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So repeat this all the way around. This is an increase row. So you'll repeat this all the way around until you get back to the beginning. At the end of this row, count your single crochets. You should have 60 single crochet total. If you don't, you need to go back and figure out where you messed up because you need 60 single crochets at the end of this round. All right, so at the end of round 8, you're just simply going to join. I've already chained 3 for round 9. Now I'm going to work my front post treble around that chain 3, just like we have done the last few rounds. Skip the single behind and double crochet into the next single crochet. Then we're going to front post a treble crochet around the next double, skip behind, and then double into the next single. Front post treble around the next double, skip 1 behind, double crochet into the next one. Then we're going to work a front post treble around the very next double crochet, skip the single behind it, and double crochet into the next one. Front post treble around the next double crochet, skip the single behind it, double crochet into the next single, front post treble around the next double crochet, skip the single behind it, double crochet into the next single, front post treble crochet right into the next double, or right around the next double crochet, skip the single behind it, and double crochet into the next. So essentially all we're going to be doing is working a front post and then a double, a front post and then a double. But you're going to be working them around the double crochets. And because the double crochets end up we have those sections where there's 2 of them right next to one another, even though we're working the front post trebles right next to one another, they are split up, or they're separated by a double in between them. So we're still going to be working all the way around, and at the end of this round, you should have 30 front post trebles and 30 double crochets. Now, at the end of this round, you're just going to repeat this same round all the way down for the full length of your hat. You're going to continue by working front post trebles around double crochets and double crochets into the single crochets. The only difference is we're not going to increase any more after this. So after you work this entire round 9, round 10 will just be a round of single crochets. Round 11 is going to be the same as round 9. And then you're just going to repeat rounds 9 and rounds 10 over and over again until you have a hat that is about this size. Now, the pattern gives you the specific number of rows you need to complete if you're following this gauge. However, if you want to make this a little bit slouchier, just work some more rows. If you want it to be a little bit more of a short beanie or small beanie, which I love, you can work fewer rows. You can choose to work a brim. While I'm not including the directions for the brim in this class, you can totally add a brim. I'll have some links below to how to work a brim like this. But really, you could just end off and you would just have a hat that kind of looks like this. You could just get this really great texture. You could continue the front post trebles down into a front post treble rib. There's so many brim and rib options that you could do for this section here that I kind of wanted to leave that up to you. Now the written pattern does have all the information you need to work this back and forth rib here for the brim, but again, that's up to you. You choose what you want to do. I'm leaving that in your hands. But that's all there is to it. That's how you complete the billow hat. The most complicated part is getting those increases down for the crown, which is why I wanted to show you. Remember, rounds 1 through 10 are the only rounds that are kind of complicated. You repeat rounds 9 and 10 over and over again. One of the things I love about this hat, and the reason I love wearing it, is because the inside, it just fits so well. It's so smooth because these are where all your single crochet rows go, right? So while we get all this texture, you're not feeling any of this texture on your head. You're getting all this wonderful, beautiful texture on the inside of your hat. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed stitching the billow hat. I love this pattern. I think it's so much fun. As you can see, it works up so fast. Especially with a larger hook and worsted weight yarn. I love this. It's so much fun. I can't wait to make 10. I might make 20. Who knows? This is a great hat for the men in your life. This is a great hat to donate to charity. Make it in a super soft yarn and donate it to your hospitals. For chemo patients, there's not a lot of hats out there that are made for men undergoing chemo, and this is a really wonderful option for that. If you do that, make sure you use a washable yarn that's very, very soft. This Heather one might not be the best, but this Premier Yarns Everyday Worsted would be the perfect yarn if you're going to make a chemo hat. And one thing I always hear is you want it to be a little bit looser, so maybe go up a hook size and don't put a brim on it, okay? You don't want it too tight around the head. But that's just an option. All right, so that's all there is to the billow hat. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you can head to my website for all the information that you need to make this hat. I will have everything linked below, including where to get the yarn, where to find the free pattern, where to find a downloadable pattern, all that good stuff. Until next time, friends, I'm Rohn Strong for Rohn Strong Designs. Happy stitching, and we'll see you later.